we've got our stuff sorted out at the bank. We've got a nice wet mat, it's on flat ground, it's ready to deal with our carp nice and safely. One thing that I get into the habit of doing, particularly when you're on your own, which I mostly fish on my own, is that I think there's more danger to a carp at this point than actually when it's on the unhooking mat. And the reason I believe that is that carrying carp in a net, and particularly when there's tackle in the net around them, is a potential danger point. So one thing I'm always keen to do, firstly, make sure you've got a lot of slack line. Okay, you can see that's wrapped around the rod tip. We just want to make sure that there's not unnecessary pressure on the tackle wrapped around a carp's body. You can't see in there if there's a leg core leader wrapped around a fin over the top of the dorsal. If you start lifting them and carrying them around, you can find very easily the lines slicing through fins or make them a bit uncomfortable. Make sure there's lots of slack. Knock the free spool on, just make sure that you haven't got the rod tip bent right around into that. Ain't good for them at all. Okay. Second job is disengage the arms. Okay, simply because when it comes to carrying time, you've already got 12 foot of carbon. If you've got 6 foot out behind you the other way and you're trying to move it around, you're going to end up knocking the top off your rod, you're going to end up bumping into people, you're either going to snap a rod, fall over yourself, you're going to have all sorts of problems, okay? So lose the pole because you've lost 6 foot of carbon. And then before you bring him up the bank, you want to make sure that you roll the mesh down, just so you're not scraping him along the floor. And when you get there, you just check that the fins are all flush, so you're not going to damage anything. And then off we go. Okay, all right, golden rule, carp big or small, as soon as he's unhooked, you want to get the tackle out the way. Okay, one of the reasons you want to get the tackle out the way is for the fish safety. Okay, you don't want line wrapped around him. If he starts jumping around, we'll just cover him up so you don't get too excited. And secondly, all the time you've got a fish on the mat, you've got 12 foot of carbon and an expensive reel, probably people's biggest investments, and it's lying on the floor. Someone's going to come treading it and ruin your day. All right, so the first thing you want to do, make sure that is safely out the way. All right, and we've got our little carp. Okay, this little thing, you can see why Sutton rear him that way. When he gets to 30 pound, he's going to have a name, and people are going to be absolutely gobsmacked when they land that, okay? You get into good habits when you catch this fish this size, and it means in 4 or 5 years' time, when he is a 30 pounder, which he will be, it means he's still going to look absolutely identical to that. And there are very, very few people who get a big fish with scaling like that, aren't going to get terribly overexcited. Okay, so we've unhooked him, we've got the tackle out the way. We're going to pop him back, for which we're going to stick him in a sling, make sure that his fins are flush to his body. Net out the way. And we're going to carry him back and put him back. Okay, so you're never going to drop a carp back, you're never going to throw them back, you just want to make sure they're back in the water. Release them out the sling, which is actually a lot more difficult when they're this size than when they're a little bit bigger. Okay, so if you just flood it, let him put his nose out, and off he goes nice and strong. Eat a few more boilies, get a little bit bigger.